All right, everybody. Week 9 of the TexAgs High School Football Show. Ryan Brauninger and Jason Howell joining you again this week. And again, more playoff races getting clear by the week. Some teams really starting to emerge as state title contenders. Some big matchups all across the state last week. We'll start, as we always do, with Jason and kind of his exploits in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. But Jason, we both saw some of the best in the state last weekend.
Yeah, and I saw a couple blowouts, but South Lake Carroll, team that I've had high on my state title contender list there. Saw them take out Keller Central 49-3. Went to see Tyler White and Jack Van Dorselaer. Tyler White, the punter, kicker, he does everything for South Lake Carroll, special teams wise, handles the kickoffs, punts, field goals. He was, he didn't have any punts. His brother had the only punt of the night. So I didn't get to see him punt, but he was perfect on his PATs. And he had plenty of those. And Jack, he was really good, in his blocking assignments. Wasn't targeted throughout the game, but had some, he looked good coming off the line. You could see him, especially in warm-ups, coming in and out of his breaks. He's a really athletic kid, 6'5", already has great size as a 2025, and it's easy to see why Texas A&M offered. Now, I will say this, Keldon Ryan and Adrian Wilson both turned in spectacular efforts in a losing battle there for Keller Central. Keldon Ryan's going to be fun to watch. He's one of the top 2025 quarterbacks in the state, and he already has several P5 offers. Really athletic. He was under pressure all night long, and he did a great job of evading it and keeping his eyes downfield, finding receivers or, finding an opening and where he could make a play with his legs. And Adrian Wilson is a safety who is going to Colorado, but he plays both ways for Keller Central, and he was Ryan's favorite target. And when there was a big play for Central, it was those two teaming up. And then on Friday night, I was out at Geyer to see the 62-7 win over Denton Braswell. And this one, it started off a little shaky. Braswell, takes a 7-0 lead. Geyer has a couple turnovers to start things off, and the first quarter ended 7-7. After that, it was all
55-0.
It was all Geyer, man. Peyton Bowen and that defense. Peyton Bowen just looks, his speed and his explosiveness just really jump off the tape. Check out the highlights if you haven't. He can get going in a hurry, and he closes space like no other. He had a great game. Jackson Arnold was spectacular. I am blanking on the freaking running back. Trey had like 3 or 4 touchdowns, over 100 yards, and it was just a all around big effort by Geyer.
They're doing that a lot this year.
Well, and this sets up a big one for them. I don't want to jump too far ahead, but they've got a monster matchup this week. So it's going to be that I'm sure we'll be discussing it here pretty soon.
Well, as things can typically happen in Greater Houston, especially when you get to the south side of Houston, you run into some weather problems. So I drove down to Rose Sharon, Iowa Colony area last Thursday. I was going to check out Manville against Richmond Foster, one of the bigger games in the Greater Houston area. I get into the stadium. It's 7:00 kick, and I get in there at about 6:05. I'm there for 10 minutes, and they call everybody off the field for a lightning delay. And that's where we stayed for the entirety of the night. They kept moving start time back till it got to be about 8:45. when they finally made the decision to reschedule it. They ended up playing that game on Saturday at noon. And actually, Manville upsets Richmond Foster. They're Manville's. I mean, Manville's Manville. There's a lot of new schools popping up in that area, including Iowa Colony. But Manville still turns out really good young players. Unquestionably one of the top programs in Greater Houston. They upset Richmond Foster. Forget the final score, but that happened on Saturday. Then on Friday, I made the trek west, and I don't know that if you've been to Dripping Springs ever. First of all, it's beautiful. It is beautiful, right? But made a stop at Style Switch Barbecue for pregame meal off of North Lamar there in Austin. And then when I got into my car, it said 28 miles to Dripping Springs High School. That 28 miles took me about an hour and 20 minutes. It was the biggest game in Dripping Springs, maybe in their history. They're hosted number 2 ranked Austin Westlake, both teams undefeated. Dripping Springs has not been in that scenario very often as a history of a school in football, but their quarterback Austin Novosad and the rest of that staff, those players have done a great job to put them in that position. So everybody, I mean, they shut the town down. I ended up getting to the stadium for a 7:30 kick. I got there at about 5:30, 5:15, something like that.
Yeah.
And the parking lot was jam-packed full of tailgates.
Gotta love it.
Body paint going on. I mean, it was typical Texas high school football scene. And really, Dripping Springs, it was a defensive battle. Austin Westlake got their starting quarterback, Paxton Land, back the week before. He was fully healthy against that game against Dripping Springs. And you could see him just kind of ease into it, grow into it as the game went on. Huge blow for the Chaparrals. They lose Texas A&M offensive line commit TJ Shanahan in the first quarter. One of those deals, he's getting out on a screen pass and trying to make an adjustment to block a guy in the open field, and his left knee just gives way. Still have not heard a final diagnosis on that. I know they're waiting to take an MRI to really be sure what went on there. But to Austin Westlake's credit and to their championship pedigree, they pull away in the fourth quarter. I believe it was 16-10 to start the quarter. They end up winning the game 29-10. They forced 4 turnovers in the last 4 drives for Dripping Springs to really ice the game. 1 fumble, 3 interceptions. It got to kind of desperation mode for Austin Novosad and Dripping Springs, so they had to put it up. And that Westlake pass rush, anchored by Colton Vosick and Nate Wayand.
Man, he's impressive.
Yeah, Will Courtney on the back end. And I talked to a college coach that was there, and that was one of the things was like Texas A&M was there, Baylor was there, Ohio State was there. There were some D2s there, and I ended up talking to one of the position coaches for one of those schools, and he was telling me, like, for a high school defense, Tony Salazar really it causes problems for offenses because there's not many high school coaches that are able to implement those type of schemes at that level and the variety of schemes. So he made his name as the defensive coordinator under Todd Dodge there. Now he's the head coach, and that Austin Westlake defense is stifling. I mean, it's going to be tough for anybody in that region to score enough to beat them in the playoffs. And really, as they get their starting quarterback back and the offense starts to get humming a little bit more, I mentioned Paxton Land, Jaden Greathouse, Keaton Quebeca, their running back, Jack Kaiser. They've got plenty of playmakers, so they're going to get more comfortable scoring points. But, man, they may only need a couple of touchdown drives a game to make it back to AT&T.
No doubt. Yeah, they're definitely going to be a contender. And we talked about Southlake, talking about those favorites. They're going to have some work to do with they're working with a backup quarterback. Caden Anderson's out, as we mentioned going in, and Graham Knowles, he was good at times. He had his moments, and he looked kind of shaky at times too, as you would expect a first-time starter. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out over the last few weeks of the season and into the playoffs. And talking about those state title contenders, we got 2 of them coming up in a Thursday matchup here in DFW, and Denton Geyer.
Were there any games that stood out? Because Houston was pretty chalky all weekend. Greater Houston was pretty chalky. So there wasn't anything that really grabbed hold of me when I looked at the scores from over the weekend.
Yeah.
There's some big games coming up. Was there anything in Dallas that really caught your attention?
Well, the Allen McKinney game, 31-28, back and forth battle there. And that one definitely caught my attention. McKinney earned some stripes in that one for sure.
Mhm.
5-2, 3-1. They're going to be a fun team to watch in the playoffs. They've got Brian Jackson's doing his thing. Keldrick Luster, quarterback, who's he was at Frisco Liberty before transferring over. He's a playmaker at quarterback. They've got some guys. They're going to be fun to watch. And but that score, that definitely had my eye. And 64-21, Aledo over Burleson Centennial. Um, you know, that one to me, the Burleson Centennial is a team that knocked off Denton Ryan the week before. And so they're more than capable. They came into the matchup undefeated. And, to me, that shows Aledo has definitely rebounded from some early season losses and kind of found their stride. And, Centennial stumbled a bit. It's tough coming, having those two back to back. I'm sure it was a lot, but yeah, it proved to be too much, and Aledo showed that they're for real. And I mentioned Southlake, Byron Nelson, 45-17 over Keller, and Byron Nelson may be the favorite in that district now.
Well, and let's move on to this week because this is a loaded slate across the state. I'm on my cell phone. The computer's kind of acting up here, so I don't have the full list pulled up. I'll have to go some of these off of memory.
Okay.
But man, when you go across the state, this is I'm talking about even 3A Division I. You've got number 1 Franklin against Lorena. I mean, what a huge matchup that is. State champions against each other. Franklin 3A Division II last year. They move up to Division I to face Lorena, who was the last year's 3A Division I championship. I think Lake Belton has a big one this week.
Midlothian. Yep.
Against Midlothian. Yeah. Yep. Huge game there.
I'm
going to be on Thursday night. I will be at Katy Pato against Katy Seven Lakes. Pato right in the middle of that district race. That Katy district is all crazy. A team to really kind of watch out for might be Cinco Ranch. They're scoring tons of points right now. But going there to see obviously all the A&M commits and targets at Katy Pato, but playing against 2024 linebacker at Seven Lakes, Dakias Brinkley. Seven Lakes has struggled this year, but he has been really, really good. So anxious to get to see him play. And then on Friday night, I will head to the north side of Houston. Big matchup, man. And two schools that I think, in terms of Greater Houston, that are being slept on in postseason, especially when you look at the postseason and what could happen. Klein Kane against Klein Collins, an undefeated Klein Collins team who is led by 2024 quarterback Tucker Parks. Again, like him and Trey Owens in the city of Houston in the class of 24. DJ Lagway gets a lot of love, deservedly. So does Mabry Mettauer. But keep an eye on those two quarterbacks, and they both got their teams in positions to make postseason runs. But I'm going to go see Klein Collins against a really talented Klein Kane 2024 offensive lineman, Gibson Powell. Got tons of offers there at Kane. So looking forward to that one at Klein Memorial Stadium. But I don't know, Jason, do you have a list pulled up of the game? Because we hit a few of them, but there's a ton.
Yeah, China Spring versus Stephenville.
Oh, yeah, that's 1 versus 2.
Yeah. You got you got the Battle of the Axe here in my neck of the woods, Louisville, taking on Farmouth Marcus. Denton Geyer, hosting Allen on ESPN2 on Thursday night for those who want to check out a high school game. Lots of college talent and several, top A&M targets in that game. I will be at Denton Ryan for the Aledo contest. Get to see Anthony Hill and 2024 linebacker target Devon Keys. So should be a lot of fun. Ryan's coming off a bye week, and Aledo's coming off that Burleson Centennial matchup.
two
Yeah.
different tastes in their mouth, right? Ryan had the loss and then had to sit through a bye week.
Well, and they're going to be without their starting quarterback. So, it'll be interesting to see how they bounce back and, what happens with that offense. But shoot, no, nothing would surprise me. This is going to be a home game for Ryan. So it's gonna be fun to watch. I got a feeling they're going to come out firing. Already got a loss in district play, and I think they're going to they're going to want to stay as high in that district as they can. And then I've got here's one that's a little bit of a sleeper matchup. Longview taking on McKinney North. Between the two of them, there's only one loss,
Wow.
and so that'll be a big one in that district. And Longview has just been running through teams and looking really, really good, and have made themselves a big time contender for a title run there. Those are a few that I had on my radar.
Well, and there's one more that I may put an upset alert or an upset watch
Okay.
on. Atascocita might be in a look ahead spot because next Thursday they play North Shore.
Okay.
This week they've got a really talented CE King team. If they look past CE King and ahead to that giant matchup with North Shore next Thursday, CE King's talented enough to keep themselves in a game and make it a 4-quarter contest and really kind of put some doubt into Atascocita. So if they're in a look ahead spot, I think Atascocita is the better team, but in that look ahead spot, it could be tough.
How did we not mention Shiner or Furio?
Oh God, yeah, that's down that way. That's the biggest game south of San Antonio in the state.
That's up there with any of them, man.
Yeah, and how about this? I think for the first time in school history, PSJA North is in the top 10 in 5A Division 1.
Oh, wow.
So a team from the Valley, you don't really see teams from the Valley kind of break into that top 10 because it's so dominated by the metropolitan areas. But PSJA North, the Raiders, in the top 10 for the first time in school history. That's a pretty cool story.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, man. Well, that's for Jason Howell. I'm Ryan Brauninger. Jason, be safe on the road. We'll be right back here next week on the TexAgs High School Football Show.